Welcome to the Advertising Forum. This is episode 3 of our Future is Live series, sponsored by Freewheel.
With us today is Katie Johnson, Senior Programmatic Director at New Engine. Katie's joining us today to chat about all things live. Katie, great to have you here with us today.
Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it was great to chat with you before, and loved hearing about the kind of the change from New Engine as performance and connected television, the clients you were dealing with. Thank you for just giving us so much background on the direction you're heading in. I wanted to ask you, as you're dealing with your clients, people talk about huge tentpole events and live events like the Super Bowl, especially when it comes to live TV, but how do independent agencies and smaller brands really fit into that, considering the perceived barriers of entry?
Great question. And absolutely, the Super Bowl is the number one when you think of live events, but live extends so far beyond that. Of course, you have tent poles like March Madness, even the upcoming Olympics, but live really speaks to a much broader fan base that has a deeper emotional connection to these events that are beyond those huge events. I think of college sports in particular and just how deep of an emotional connection those teams' fan bases have. And they are on your TV every single Saturday. It doesn't have to be a really big moment in order for that fan to have a really big emotional moment that you can then align your brand's messaging with. So there's so many opportunities. And when you look at the rise of even things like hockey in the US, just so many ways to reach your audience on these moments that really matter to them.
Katie, when dealing with smaller brands, mid-sized brands, why is it important for them to be on live sports and live events? How does that benefit them in doing so?
I think live sports and live events, they're one of those last vestiges of primetime TV where we're all sitting down and watching the same thing. It's a very culturally relevant moment. And if you know that your audience has those affinities, it is important to be in front of them, especially when there are so many ways that you can tie data into this targeting now as well. It doesn't have to be a spray and pray approach across all of these live sports anymore. You can get really targeted down to specific sports, specific leagues even, and tailor that based on what you know about your consumers and where they're spending their time.
From your perspective, what's the programmatic approach add to live events and live streaming and what you're doing for your clients?
Oh, what doesn't it add? There's so much that you can tie in here. I mean,
You're
gone
right.
are the days of just hoping your audience is watching when you're running that spot during Grey's Anatomy, right? You can tie in not just more data for targeting, but measurement as well. So a spot like the Super Bowl is going to be very hard to tie ROI back to. Yes, you get a lot of eyeballs on it, but what did they do afterwards? With a programmatic approach, we can be much more thoughtful, and this really does play well to clients like we work with at New Engine that don't have multi-billion-dollar budgets to go buy those Super Bowl spots. But they do have a very good idea of who their consumers are. So being able to layer on that audience data, whether it's from the brand's first party data or from other retailer data that really shows where these consumers are shopping and the decisions they're making with their dollars, up through to even closed loop measurement, and being able to understand what was previously truly upper funnel media. How is that performing on the bottom line?
So where does Freewheel come into play during all of this?
Freewheel has been a huge unlock for our clients. I'm sure you've read in the news of just the layers of tech fees that we're uncovering that we're all paying through what we previously called the open market. And just by working directly with Freewheel, we've been able to not only find efficiencies for our clients, but also be able to just develop a much more nuanced CTV targeting strategy for them. So whether we are looking at just live sporting events, or if they also want to extend that into other sports content outside of just the live viewing events, or even find their audience, where they're consuming media across like lifestyle TV or entertainment, things like that. It helps us create a approach that really meets consumers where they are, that is audience first versus always having to lead with that content.
So you brought up such a great point on the audience first component, especially when it comes to live TV. In your role, when you're working with different kinds of advertisers, what are some of their asks that come up about just being in live? Before we started recording, we were talking about Q4 and is it too late? And how do I get involved with live TV and live streaming?
The biggest concerns that I hear are those turnaround times and those minimums. Historically, everyone thinks of live as being something that's going to cost you a lot of money in order to be present there. That's the beauty of programmatic. There's no minimums. I could set up a campaign and run $1,000 if I wanted to and have it be really highly targeted to that audience that I care about. And then working with somebody like Freewheel also really helps make it efficient overall. And we're all scared of those, $70 CPMs that can pop up when you're targeting, NFL, Monday Night Football, all of those high viewership moments. But working with somebody like Freewheel that has these direct relationships allows us to spend the time actually coming up with that strategy and not necessarily trying to spin our own wheels, trying to find the most direct ways to buy these and then stitching together a bunch of buys across what's now a very fragmented live streaming space.
Katie, I have another question for you because, talking about the ease and the perceived difficulty of buying connected television, but the availability of it to smaller and mid-sized brands and companies. Are you seeing this from your clients where people who previously looked at connected television as untouchable have suddenly opened up their, wallets and budgets and views of the space and started kind of pushing that spend towards streaming and connected television?
Absolutely. We're especially seeing it where brands have historically bought linear as well. I'm sure we've all read that streaming has now surpassed linear in viewership for the first time this year and is continuing to trend that way. So it's really becoming a non-negotiable. If you're in video advertising, those dollars are shifting towards CTV and the consumer's eyes are as well. So it's definitely something that comes up pretty often. And then, being able to be nimble and book things, not months out, but even just weeks out is really impactful as well, because they can make those last minute decisions if they need to throw incremental dollars into a market, if a product is performing really well, something like that.
Katie, this has been an awesome discussion. Thank you for being here. This has been a great series so far. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Freewheel. This is, anytime we're talking about live, it just makes it fun because the future is live. We agree. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it, Katie.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks for having me.